The leadership of Akpabio refuses to pass the electrical transmission of results means the election has been totally rigged. Take it to the bank. The only solution now is to fight these people physically. The senators, House of Assembly, fight them. Nigerians should go against them immediately. They can take it to the court. Nigeria can contest it in the court because they cannot pass a law for only few people, for the benefit of few people, and displease the entire country.
On Wednesday, the 4th of February, 2026, something deeply troubling happened in Nigeria. It did not happen on the streets. It did not involve gunshots or protests or burning tires. It happened quietly, behind closed doors, inside the Nigerian Senate. After hours of tense deliberations, meetings so divisive they were postponed again and again, the Senate made a decision that may shape the future of this country for years to come. Our so-called distinguished senators voted against making electronic transmission of election results mandatory. Not optional reforms, not vague guidelines, mandatory safeguards. And with that single vote, they reopened a wound that Nigerians are still bleeding from. This was not a new debate. This was not some abstract policy disagreement. This was the very issue that turned the 2023 general election into a national embarrassment. The same loophole that allowed election results to vanish into thin air while Nigerians watched helplessly. The same so-called technical glitch that left President Bola Ahmed Tinubu clinging to legitimacy the way a drowning man clings to a floating straw. This was their chance to close that loophole forever. They chose not to, and the timing of that choice is not accidental. It is calculated. What the Senate was deliberating on was the Electoral Act, Amendment, Bill 2026, a bill meant to repair the flaws exposed in the Electoral Act of 2022. Buried within its 155 clauses was a simple, powerful amendment, Clause 60, subsection 5. That clause would have made it mandatory for presiding officers to electronically transmit polling unit results in real time to the INEC result viewing portal, the IREV, immediately after completing Form EC8A. No ambiguity, no discretion, no room for manipulation. Transparent, straightforward, foolproof. But instead of embracing this common-sense reform, the Senate chose to retain the same vague, manipulable framework from 2022, the framework that says results shall be transmitted in a manner as prescribed by the Commission. Those few words are where democracy goes to die. Because when transparency becomes optional, accountability disappears. Senate President Godswill Akpabio rushed to the media afterward, attempting damage control. He insisted the Senate did not reject electronic transmission. They merely refused to make it mandatory, as if there is a meaningful difference, as if optional transparency is not simply another word for selective honesty. What Akpabio was really saying, without saying it, is this: we will use electronic transmission when it benefits us and ignore it when it doesn't. And there is nothing Nigerians can do about it. That is not a safeguard. That is a trapdoor. To understand why this decision matters so deeply, you must go back to February 25th, 2023. That day is burned into Nigeria's collective memory. On the night before the election, Nigerians went to bed believing in something many had not believed in for decades, that technology would finally protect our votes. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, promised that results would be uploaded to the IREV portal in real time. Nigerians believed them. On election day, citizens queued under the sun, cast their ballots, and waited to see democracy work in real time. But then the unthinkable happened. INEC announced there had been a technical glitch. Presidential election results were not uploaded to the IREV portal. When Nigerians demanded answers, INEC blamed technology. Conveniently, that technology failed only where it mattered most, the presidential election. What followed was chaos. Results uploaded online contradicted results announced at polling units. Figures were altered. Documents were mutilated. Investigations by Premium Times revealed that results from Rivers State uploaded on the portal contradicted what was officially announced, indicating that Peter Obi had actually won the state. Yet INEC declared Bola Ahmed Tinubu the winner there. The European Union Election Observation Mission noted that INEC's handling of election technology severely diminished public trust. Civil society organizations raised alarm bells. International observers questioned the credibility of the entire exercise. And when the matter reached the Supreme Court, the ruling was devastating. The court held that electronic transmission was not legally required because it was not explicitly mandated in the Electoral Act. That loophole, the same one the Senate has now refused to close, was weaponized to legitimize a deeply contested outcome. This is why mandatory electronic transmission mattered. This is why Nigerians demanded it. And this is why the Senate's decision is not just policy failure, it is a declaration of war against Nigerian democracy. Let us stop pretending this is complicated. It is not. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu knows he cannot win a truly free, fair, and credible election in 2027. He knows this because he barely won in 2023, and that was before policies that have plunged millions of Nigerians into economic hardship. In 2023, Tinubu secured about 8.7 million votes, while Atiku Abubakar received approximately 6.9 million and Peter Obi garnered over 6.1 million. Combined, the second and third place candidates received far more votes than the eventual winner. Tinubu won with roughly 36% of total votes cast, the lowest margin of victory in Nigeria's Fourth Republic. That was before the naira collapsed. Before inflation turned food into a luxury. Before electricity became something only the wealthy could reliably afford. Today, Tinubu's approval ratings have plummeted. He is widely viewed as one of the most unpopular presidents in Nigeria's history. The opposition that split its votes in 2023 is already showing signs of unity ahead of 2027. If the election is free and fair, Tinubu will lose. It really is that simple. So what does a desperate man do when he knows the people no longer want him? He does not try to win their hearts. He tries to control the process. And that is exactly what rejecting mandatory electronic transmission enables. Here is why electronic transmission matters. Under Nigeria's current electoral system, votes are counted at the polling unit and recorded on Form EC8A. The form is signed by the presiding officer and party agents, and copies are distributed. Then the results are physically transported to collation centers. That journey, from polling unit to collation center, is where democracy is ambushed. Results are rewritten. Numbers are inflated. Documents are swapped. By the time the truth emerges, it is already too late. This is not theory. This is documented history. In 2023, videos circulated of INEC officials handling multiple result sheets. Nigerians shared polling unit results that contradicted final announcements. That gap between polling unit and collation center became a black hole where democracy disappeared. Mandatory electronic transmission would have sealed that gap permanently. Upload the result immediately. Make it visible to everyone. What Nigerians see at the polling unit is what the nation sees. No midnight alterations. No quiet rewriting of history. The Senate knew this, and they killed it anyway. What does that tell you about the National Assembly today? The Senate was designed to be independent, to represent the people, to check executive excess. But what we have now is legislative capture. A Senate controlled by the ruling party. A leadership beholden to the executive it is meant to oversee. Closed-door sessions to protect power, not people. Silence where accountability should exist. The All Progressives Congress, APC, controls the Senate. It controls the House. It controls the executive. And now, by rejecting mandatory electronic transmission, it has positioned itself to control the 2027 election regardless of what Nigerians want. The separation of powers is collapsing. What remains is a one-party state pretending to be a democracy. Here is the uncomfortable truth Nigerians must confront. We are standing at the edge of a cliff. The 2023 election fractured public trust. Voter turnout collapsed. Less than 28% of registered voters participated. Not because Nigerians are satisfied, but because they believe their votes no longer count. That belief is not apathy. It is despair. And despair is dangerous. When people lose faith in ballots, they turn elsewhere. History is clear on this. Nigeria is already fragile, riddled with insecurity, economic hardship, ethnic tension, and a restless youth population. Add a stolen election to that mix, and the consequences are unthinkable. If we are being honest with ourselves, what happened in the Senate on February 4th, 2026 did not begin in that chamber. It is the result of a long, dangerous drift away from democratic responsibility. Democracies do not collapse overnight. They erode slowly, quietly, through small decisions that seem technical, procedural, and harmless, until one day, citizens wake up and realize they no longer recognize the system governing them. The rejection of mandatory electronic transmission is one of those quiet but fatal decisions. Let us be clear about what the Senate has effectively done. They have told Nigerians that the chaos of 2023 was not a mistake to be corrected, but a strategy to be preserved. They have told INEC that ambiguity is acceptable. They have told politicians that manipulation still has room to breathe. And most importantly, they have told citizens that their outrage does not matter, that their lived experience of a compromised election is irrelevant. That institutional comfort is more important than public trust. INEC itself is now trapped in this dangerous ambiguity. On paper, it can still use electronic transmission. In reality, without a legal mandate, it is exposed to pressure from political actors who benefit from opacity. Any future failure, real or manufactured, will once again be explained away as a technical issue. And Nigerians will once again be told to accept it, move on, and swallow the outcome for the sake of stability. But there can be no stability where legitimacy is absent. What we call stability under these conditions is merely suppressed anger. This is why the argument that INEC already has the power to transmit electronically is intellectually dishonest. Power without obligation is meaningless. Discretion without consequence is an invitation to abuse. A democratic safeguard that can be ignored at will is not a safeguard at all. It is a suggestion, and suggestions do not protect votes. The most troubling aspect of this moment is not even the Senate's vote, it is the silence that followed. Where are the voices of outrage within the political class? Where are the emergency press conferences? Where are the lawmakers standing before their constituents to explain why Nigerians do not deserve certainty in elections? The silence is not accidental. It is strategic. Silence allows this decision to fade into the background, to be normalized, to become just another footnote in Nigeria's long list of democratic disappointments. But history teaches us something important. When institutions fail repeatedly, citizens eventually stop asking for reform and start demanding rupture. That is the danger Nigeria now faces. A generation of young Nigerians has grown up watching elections that feel staged, outcomes that feel predetermined, and court judgments that feel disconnected from reality. These young people are not apathetic. They are angry. And anger, when ignored by institutions, does not disappear. It mutates. The Senate's decision has also sent a chilling message to future whistleblowers, election observers, and reform advocates. It tells them that evidence does not matter, that documentation does not matter, that even when the world is watching, power will still protect itself. This breeds cynicism not just toward elections, but toward governance as a whole. Why obey laws written by people who do not respect the spirit behind them? Why trust institutions that refuse to learn from their own failures? And let us not pretend this decision exists in isolation. It fits neatly into a broader pattern: shrinking civic space, increasing intolerance of dissent, selective application of the law, and an obsession with control rather than consent. Democracies survive not because leaders are perfect, but because systems are strong enough to restrain ambition. What the Senate has done is weaken one of the few remaining restraints. Some will argue that Nigerians should simply mobilize better in 2027. But mobilization without protection is meaningless. You do not ask people to run faster while refusing to fix the broken bridge ahead of them. Participation without integrity is a trap. And deep down, many Nigerians already understand this. That is why voter turnout collapsed in 2023. That is why millions are emotionally checking out of the political process. Not because they do not care, but because caring has become painful. This is the crossroads Nigeria stands at today. One path leads toward reform, transparency, and restored trust. The other leads toward managed elections, manufactured legitimacy, and eventual instability. The Senate had a chance to push the country toward the first path. They chose the second. History will remember this moment. It will remember the names of those who spoke, and those who stayed silent. It will remember who stood with the people and who stood with power. And long after the political calculations of 2026 have faded, Nigerians will still be living with the consequences of this choice. The question is no longer whether Nigeria deserves better. The question is whether those in power are willing to allow it. This is where we end today, not with comfort, not with false hope, but with clarity. Democracy does not die only through coups and dictatorships. Sometimes, it dies through amendments rejected, safeguards ignored, and citizens slowly pushed to the margins of their own future. This is why 2027 is not just another election. It is a test of national survival. And the Senate's decision is not just reckless, it is playing with fire in a room soaked in petrol. This is Brainspot Media. We bring you the truth, raw, unfiltered, and uncompromising. Stay informed. Stay vigilant. If this video matters to you, support the work. Subscribe. Share. Speak up. Nigeria's democracy depends on it.